Well, Manchester City needed to reclaim some ground, certainly in their position of trying to chase down Liverpool. They certainly got off to a flyer at Arsenal, and it was as convincing as it was comprehensive in the end, 3-0 after the early goal from De Bruyne. Fantastic finish, one of two that he got, and one from Sterling as well. Simple as. Yeah, pretty much. I suppose all they can do now, Ross, is just try and put as much pressure on Liverpool as possible. You know, with Leicester dropping points, there's a busy Christmas period coming up. There's a Club World Cup. There's League Cup for Liverpool. There's lots of games, but it's a healthy lead, and I think from City's perspective, particularly off the back of last week's very poor performance in the Manchester derby, was to respond. The perfect team to go away and play, I suppose, really as soft as anybody in the Premier League, when you look at the grit and determination or lack of it, is Arsenal. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a spectacle, really. It was it reminded me of a training game. One of those games the managers used to put on a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever it is, and you go out and you play a training game, and you get the kids in. You get the kids in, and good experience for them because they got to be in the same field as the pros. But the pros just passed it around and did what they wanted, really, because there was such a disparity in quality. And kind of that's where we were today. But not that we're sitting here surprised about it. We're not. But when you see it, actually, and you think, I need to compartmentalise this. Arsenal Football Club and Manchester City, such a big gap. And the result, obviously, the discrepancy for Arsenal, you can understand after the win against West Ham, going and taking on a side like City as a golfing class. Well, West Ham are a pretty hapless outfit, although they won at the weekend at Southampton, who are also hapless. But it paints a picture for Arsenal and Freddie Ljungberg that effectively no good is going to come from this caretaker period, is it? No. They've simply got to make a long-term appointment, and they've got to get their act together quickly, because you saw the substitution with Özil, more fallout off the field beforehand with him. They conceded the third goal when they were down to 10 men, when they didn't make a substitution early enough or didn't keep the injured player on the pitch, and were left with 10 men to concede to De Bruyne again. So they just seem like a rudderless ship. I mean, that is a good point. I mean, you know, sitting watching the game upstairs, I was discussing this with our colleague Shaka Hislop, and, you know, mistakes were, you know, when City got that goal, the third goal, it was 10 men. Yes. They were down to 10 because the left back was coming off. Yeah, Kolasinac. They've already lost a left back in Kieran Tierney to a bad shoulder injury, so they had no left back, so they're bringing the youngster on. That's not the problem. The problem is, and it seems that every player these days is just not ready to go on. Now, you can look at the coach and you can look at the player. Who's to blame? But, you know, not having a go at the youngster, but I think it's a generalisation amongst players now. You've really got to be ready to go. Shin pads on, bosh. Now it's like umpteen layers of clothes to get off. So the whole thing was just a shambles, really. You know, anybody talking about Freddie Ljungberg for the job is just crazy. You know, Mikel Arteta is certainly out there, but in my opinion, unless it's just a love of Arsenal, why the hell would Mikel Arteta put himself out there with this football club, with this team, with this structure behind the scene? Sit and wait in Man City and see what happens, see if something better comes along. Ancelotti doesn't seem the kind of manager that wants to manage this situation. So there's some big thinking to do at Arsenal. They're just, if it's just Ljungberg to the end of the season, they're just going to potter along, and as every week and month goes past, they fall further behind the real big boys. Yeah, and a quick word on Kevin De Bruyne and how he's performing. Brilliant, injury-strewn season last year, terrific player, you know, real quality, could have been 5 or 6, he could have had his hat-trick. Nothing surprised me about Arsenal, and nothing surprised me about Kevin De Bruyne. We know where City's problems have lain this year, really, and they've been at the other end. We know their quality going forward. Defensively, they've not been great. Today, defensively, they did their job, and it'll be interesting to see how much they can peg back of this Liverpool deficit, if any, between now and May, which is quite a long way to go. Yeah, and a big one coming up against Leicester City, of course, and Manchester City over the festive period. So, as routine as it comes for City, Arsenal stuck in the mud.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPNFC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.